And now, our feature presentation.
See how he does it? He always discourages unity among others, but he encourages unity among his own kind. United we stand. That don't mean you. You're here. Yeah, old Negroes jump up and say, yeah, united we stand. They don't mean you. That means the white man. The white man is the one who stands united. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that these devils went back into Arabia.
Lost sheep.
When they got there, they started telling lies. They started confusion.
Brooklyn.
And in 6 months' time, they had turned heaven into hell. Oh yeah, had so much fighting going on among our people, brother. It became hell. We never did fight each other. We loved each other. We're in harmony with each other. And when these devils came back into our midst, they turned our paradise into a hell. So it was taken to the king, and the king looked in the book and said, "Well, these are Yaqub's people. They were made to do what they're doing, and the only way we'll have peace is to get rid of all of them, put them all to death." So the king gave the order for all of the devils to be rounded up. And by devil now I mean all those blue-eyed, blonde-haired, white things. He gave orders for them to be rounded up. They're in the east, and they were rounded up. They were rounded up and taken down to the edge of the Arabian desert. They were stripped naked, stripped of everything except their language. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that we put a lambskin apron around their waist to hide their nakedness. We put them in chains and marched them across the hot sands of the Arabian desert. This is what the black man did to the white man, brother. This is what the gods did to the devil. Actually, and if you think that I don't know what I'm talking about, those of you who are Masons, those of you who have gone into the Masons, you go through this and don't understand. When you go in, they put a lambskin apron around your waist. They put you in what's called the cable tow, right or wrong. And then they make you jump up and down on an electric mat. Make you take off your shoes and make you put the juice in the mat and make you jump up and down. Why? What are they getting at? That's all a sign of what happened to the white man 6,000 years ago. If this don't have nothing to do with you, but you're supposed to be walking the hot sands when you jump up and down. Right or wrong? You all been in some of that stuff. They tell you that that's crossing the hot sand. And you go up to old Negro Mason and ask him, when you cross the hot sands, were you walking or riding? He tell you, I was walking. He's a fool, because he was riding. He was riding horseback. He was riding on a camel. It was the white man that was in chains. It was the white man that had the apron around him. It was the white man that was walking the hot sand. We walked him at high noon. We wouldn't even let him walk at night. We stopped at night. And you know how hot the sands are, the sun and the sand is in Arabia. We expected the white man to die when we were running him out of the east. But that fool lived, brother. He lived. A lot of them died on the desert. And I might come back. In the Masonic. All of this is tied up in the Masonic ritual. When a man gets initiated into the higher degrees of that order, he goes through this. They put on the chains, they put on the apron, and they darken him up and pretend to be driving him across. And then when he gets up to the top order in those degrees, they tell him what it means. As a white man, they tell the white man what it means. A white Shriner or a white Mason what it means. The Negro never learns what it means. But it actually points back toward the time when the white man, who is the devil, or Adam as they say, was cast out of the garden. When the Bible says Adam sinned and was cast out of the garden, this is what it is meant. And an angel was put at the east gate to keep him from coming back in when the white man was run out of the east by the Muslims 6,000 years ago into the caves of Europe. The people called Turks were put there at the straits of the Dardanelles with swords. And any old devil that they caught trying to come back across the water, off went his head. The book tells you that the angel had a flaming sword. And anytime any of them tried to come back across, they were put to death. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that the white man went down into the caves of Europe and lived there for 2,000 years on his all fours. Within 1,000 years after he had gotten up there, he was on his all fours. Couldn't stand upright. You watch your old cracker today. Crackers don't walk upright like black people do. They about to, every time you look at them, they look like they're going right down on their all fours. But those who have had some education, they straighten up a little bit because they're taught how to straighten up. But a black man can be the most dumb, illiterate thing you can find anywhere, and he still walk like $1 million. Because by nature, he's upright. By nature, he stands up. But a white man got to be stood up. You got to put a white man on the square, but the black man is born on the square. Can we prove it? Yes. Notice in the East, dark people carry things on the head, don't they? Just throw it up there and walk with it, showing you they have perfect poise, perfect balance. This comes natural to them. You and I lost our poise. You can't even wear a hat on your head hardly today. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that within 1,000 years after the white people were up in the caves, they were on their all fours, and they were living in the outdoors where it's cold. This is cold over there as it is outside right now. They didn't have clothes. So by being out there in the cold, their hair got longer and longer. Hair grew out all over their body. By being on their all fours, the end of their spine began to grow. They grew a little tail that come out from the end of their spine. Oh yes, this was the white man, brother, up in the caves of Europe. He had a tail that long. You ever notice anything that walk on its all fours has a tail? That which straighten up don't have a tail. Because that when you get down, see, it just make that spine come right on out. And by him being on up there just like a dog, he was crawling around up there. He was hairy as a dog. He had a tail like a dog. He had a smell like a dog. And couldn't nothing get along with him but another dog. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that all the beasts up in Europe wanted to kill the white man. Oh yeah, they tried to kill the white man. They were after the white man. They hated the white man. So it says that what the white man would do, he'd dig a hole in the hill. That was his cave. And his mother and his daughter and his wife would all be in there with the dog. The only thing that made friends with the white man was the dog. Everything else hated him. He'd sit outside the cave at night in a tree with rocks in his hand. And if any beast come up to try and get in the cave at his family, he'd throw rocks at them. Or he'd have a club that he'd swing down and try and drive them away with. But the dog stayed in the cave with his family. The dog, and it was then, during that time, that the dog and the white woman amalgamated. The white woman went with the dog while they were living in the caves of Europe. And right to this very day, a white woman will tell you there ain't nothing she loves better than a dog. They tell you that a dog is a man's best friend. A dog isn't a black man's best friend. God is a black man's best friend. That a dog is the white man's best friend. They lived in that cave with those dogs. And right now, they got that dog smell. They got their dog lovers. Dog can get inside a white man's house and eat at his table. Lick out of his plate. They'll kiss a dog right on the nose and think nothing of it. You're not a dog kisser. You don't see no black people kissing and rubbing noses with a dog. But little white children will hug dogs and kiss dogs and eat with dogs. Am I right or wrong? You all been inside their kitchen cooking their food and making their beds. You know how they live in there. The dog will live right inside the white man's house better than you can. If you try and break your way in there, they put a rope around your neck. But the dog has got free run of the whole house. He's the white man's best friend. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that they lived up there like that for 2,000 years. And at the end of 2,000 years that the scientists in the East, realizing that it was originally predicted that the white race would rule for 6,000 years and that they had already lost 2,000 years in the caves of Europe, they sent a prophet up there from Mecca and to teach the white race, this race of devils, how to become civilized again and get up on become upright and come back and rule like they had originally been made to. The name of that prophet was Moses. And this is why you have so many of what they call the secret books of Moses. Moses never went down into Egypt. Moses went into the caves of Europe and civilized the white man. It was Moses who went into Egypt and went into Europe, into the caves, and what we call raised the devil from a dead level to a perpendicular and placed him on the square. Moses taught the white man how to cook his food. Moses taught the white man how to build a house for himself. He taught the white man also some of the technology that Yaqub had originally meant for them. And it was Moses who put the white man back on the road towards civilization and told him that he's supposed to rule for 6,000 years, that much of his time had already been lost, but that at the end of time, one would come who would destroy the whole white race. Moses taught them that. But this is why when 2,000 years later, the Jews were looking for the Messiah, and they thought that Jesus was the Messiah. And they put him to death because they knew when the Messiah comes that the Messiah was going to destroy that whole race of devils. The Jews knew this. So they put him to death, thinking that they could stop him from destroying them. But actually they made a mistake, because Jesus 2,000 years ago wasn't the Messiah. Their time wasn't up 2,000 years ago. Their time would not be up until 2,000 years later, the day and time that we're living in right now. So, brothers and sisters, my time has expired. I just wanted to point out that the white man, a race of devils, was made 6,000 years ago. This doesn't mean that to tell you that they were made, that this implies any kind of hate. They're just a race of devils. They were made 6,000 years ago. They were made to rule for 6,000 years. Their time expired in the year 1914. The only reason God didn't remove them then was because you and I were here in their clutches. And God gave them an extension of time. Well, not them an extension of time, but they received an extension of time to give the wise men of the East the opportunity to get into this house of bondage and awaken the lost sheep.